Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Just put them up for questions. Right. Okay. Let me blow my nose.
Right.
Are we on?
Yeah. Good to go.
Right, let's go. Morning everybody. Been away for the last few weeks. School holidays, kids, work-life balance, family time and all that kind of stuff. This week, a few people have been talking about ceiling, dressing, whether it's LVT, whether it's stone, ceramic and porcelain, so we thought, let's touch on ceiling. As we normally say at the end, like and subscribe, hit the bell and all that kind of stuff, or just keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody. That's what we don't want. So, let's go.
Yeah, so the biggest question that we get asked, or the most common question constantly getting asked, is what seal should I use? Okay, so it's a hard question for us to answer because it all depends on two things. One, the material that we're working on, and two, what finish does the customer want you to achieve. Okay, so what we're going to try and do today is explain the different product range that we have, where we would use the different types of seals, and then also look at the different finishes that are available that we can create for the customer, and then hopefully that will help guys determine which is the best seal for the job in hand. Okay, so when we're sealing, the first thing that we need to consider is the type of material or the type of finish that's on there. Okay, so when we look at a floor, we've obviously, every floor's got a grout joint. Grout is a porous material, and we'll accept any of the seals, and that will help improve the water repellency and the oil repellency. Okay, now around those grout joints, the tile might be polished. Okay, so if the surface is polished, it's going to be very tight. Okay, so as part of the mechanical polishing process, that closes up the pores on the stone, and as the shine gets higher and higher, the stone gets tighter, it'll accept less water, less moisture, and less oil-based stains, stuff like that. So when we go to seal polished surfaces,
Step in a sec.
To make it simple, we need a very small molecule. Okay. Now, if we're looking at a very open textured surface, so for instance, let's take like a white limestone or
sandstone.
Like an Indian sandstone, like paving flag. They're quite open and porous. So to fill them up, we want a bigger molecule. So the easiest way to describe it is the molecules in the polish sealer that you want very small, very tight to get into like a granite worktop. They're the size of, say, a grain of sand. Okay, for a molecule that's in something like our honed or the water-based, that's the size of, say, a football. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to select the right molecule to fill up the capillaries and the pores within that stone. Okay, so if we choose the correct molecule for the correct stone, we're going to get a really good level of protection, because we're going to fill that stone up, and then it's going to prevent any water and oil-based stains getting in. Okay? So this diagram here, you can see. So essentially this is how the stone looks sort of under a microscope. So what it is, it's got these channels and voids that run through it, and that's where the water, the oil, any staining, that's where it gets in and it goes in between. So what we need to do is try and fill them up with the sealer. So how the sealer works is there's two parts to it. There's the sealer, the resin, and the second part is the carrier, which is either water or oil based. Okay, so what happens is when that hits the surface, obviously water, oil, it finds its lowest point, it starts to work down into the stone, and then what happens is the carrier, so the water or the spirit base, that then evaporates, and what it does, it leaves behind the small balls of resin that basically protect the stone. So that's a simplistic way to explain how the seals work. So what they do is they go in and they actually start to bond to the stone and essentially form part of it. Yeah, so when the stone is filling up these capillaries, and then what happens is, once that's cured, within the next day or over the following weeks, it reaches its full hardness and full cure. But within, a few hours, you start getting that beading effect where the water pearls up on top. And what happens is it goes in, and when the moisture or the stain, the water hits the surface, it just repels because all these little voids and channels are filled up with the resin. Okay?
It's like a one-way street. Cars can only go down it one way. This is what's happening. That we won't allow anything to go into it from a water or oil-based point of view.
Okay. But then what makes it breathable? And Alex has this little scientific gizmo that shows that the seals are breathable, is basically called moisture vapor transmission. So what happens is the water comes down and it hits there, and it can't soak in because it's bulk water and we're repelling it. But if you've got an old Victorian floor that's maybe laid on mud or ash, and we've got a cellar and there's damp coming up, what happens is, as the moisture, the bulk water, comes up from underneath, it gets to the seal, it stops, but then as it evaporates, it allows the seal to pass through as a gas. So that's where we get the term moisture vapor transmission, because it only allows moisture to pass through as a gas. So it can move through the seal and up through the stone, but only in the form of gas as it's evaporating. It can't move in the form of bulk water. Okay? Now, if Alex shows you on this little gizmo we've got.
It's early in the morning, don't forget.
Alright.
Right, you ready? So, porous piece of sandstone. Water's been sat in there for quite a few minutes. In theory, you would think it's going to seep through and hit the bottom, but it isn't. It's just sat there. But we want the stone to breathe, so it's good for the stone. So, what you can see there is it's allowing me, and the moisture that's in me and breathing through it is actually coming up through the stone and allowing the stone to actually breathe, but not allowing any of the actual the water or oil-based products sat on the surface to go into the stone, which is what's on the diagram there. Leave this sat up here as well.
Okay, so the other key benefit of the seal being breathable is it can help us stop contaminants or pigments, salts, anything like that coming up from underneath and making the stone look unsightly. Okay, so what happens is underneath the stone you've got maybe you've got pigments, you've got dirt, you've got salts, things that are in the ground, in the adhesive, and what happens is they're soluble in water, so when they're mixed in water they can travel with it. Okay, what then happens is as the seal is there halfway through the stone, as the moisture comes up, it's because the contaminants are soluble, they're still in the water, but once they hit the seal, the water can only pass through as a gas. So as the water then evaporates, the contaminants, or the salts, the pigments, they get left behind and they can't can't pass through. So the easiest way to understand that is when you have a shower, and if you live in a hard water area, once you've had a shower, all the run marks on your shower screen, when the water dries, that evaporates, but it leaves all the hard water behind, and all the deposits and minerals get left on your shower screen. Okay, so that's the same. We're leaving all those minerals, deposits, contaminants at the bottom of the stone, and all the moisture is just passing up. So if you've got floor like a terracotta, that you might be having issues with efflorescence and salts coming through, sealing it and creating that barrier will prevent the salts from working their way up. Okay? So again, this is just a drawing of how the seals work. So again, if we're just filling up these channels, if there's no seal in there, obviously the dirt's going to build up, and then with general maintenance of like a flat mop, a scrubber dryer, the traditional methods, it's going to leave some of the dirt remaining. Okay, we can fill up those channels with protection. The dirt, you know, we can't stop dirt sitting on a tile. That's a misconception. Because the floor is sealed, homeowners and the end users need to understand that just because it's sealed, the dirt won't, you know, find its nature of gravity, land on the floor, and then hover and find its way out the door. Okay, it can still sit on top. Same as you get your car waxed and all the water just beads off, but you drive through a muddy field, the dirt's still going to stick to it, it'll just come off easier. Okay, same principle. So the seal's there, the dirt's going to sit a little bit higher. It's because of the protection, it's not going to be able to sort of bond and dry onto the tile, and then it can just be mopped or cleaned away quite easy.
I suppose one thing that we can say here is, so there's two types of seals in essence. There's what's called a topical seal, which sits at the surface, and then an impregnating seal. So that sits within inside the stone, which is what this is. So the impregnating stone, as Martin's just said, is sat here. So what we're trying to do in essence is fill all these voids up within the stone or the tile, so that the dirt isn't sat at the bottom, it's sat at the surface. So the client, whether it be a commercial or whether it be a homeowner, doesn't really matter, that their maintenance system can actually deal with any dirt that's just sat at the surface, and it's not sat down in the deeper parts of the stone or the tile. That's what we're trying to do. Nice and simple. And it's an impregnating seal. Ooh.
So these are the solution that we've got for some of the different materials, and we'll sort of go through the different seals that we've got. Okay, so our most popular seal, which is a very good all-rounder, is our water-based all-in-one. Okay, so it's a water-based protection. It's got very good oil and water repellency features. It's got very no smell, very low odour to it. I know that sort of in some commercial environments and homes, people have had, years ago might have had a very strong solvent sealer used, and the complaint from the customer was the house smelled for a long time after it. So something like the water-based is a great choice there. And the other thing, it's also, it can go onto the stone with still a little bit of residual moisture in the stone. So what we're saying there is anything below 15 on your moisture meter, you can use the water-based sealer.
Let me grab a moisture meter as well, just while you're talking.
So it means that you can potentially turn the job around a little bit quicker for the homeowners. We're not sort of worrying that it needs to dry out for days and days till it's perfectly dry to use a solvent sealer, stuff like that. So the water-based is very popular with our guys. It's easy to use. It's got great protection. It's got a lot of sort of benefits for using it when you're trying to turn a project around quite quick.
So these are, excuse me, these are moisture meters. So it's just two-pronged, simple device. You switch it on, you put it on the surface, and it will give you a reading on here.
This is another one. There's plenty of them around, but what we're trying to do is, ideally, we're looking for that reading to be less than 15. And if it's less than 15, that basically means that you're good to go from a sealing point of view.
Yeah. So we have, you can get, they're called hygrometer readers, and they're thousands of pounds, that people are using in projects like architects and stuff like that. But, we just need something basic. It's just going to give us a good indication of whether, the level of moisture that's in the stone. We don't need to be super technical with this. So the water base is, like I say, it's a great option. It's also a very good base coat for us then putting on the surface dressing, which is a surface coating that we'll come on to after we've talked about the stain protectors. Okay, so the next one we've got is all-in-one hone. Okay, so all-in-one hone is, well, it's an absolute beast of a seal for any sort of open honed materials. Okay, so like very porous, like white limestone, a sandstone, anything that's super absorbent. This product, with just one coat, is going to give it, massively reduce the absorbency of the surface. Okay, it is solvent based, so the floor needs to be sort of completely dry or below 5 on your moisture meter. But this product is, it's very good beading effect as well. So for those customers with poor, sort of sandstone kitchen that are really keen on that huge sort of beading purling effect, all-in-one hone is going to give that presence for them. It's also our toughest seal for if you want to seal outdoor patio. Okay, it's the one that holds up to the sort of the weather, the elements, the acid rain the best out of our range. It's also, you can use it as a base coat again for the waxes, but because it's solvent based, we need it to fully cure, and then it would be returning the next day to apply your wax. Whereas with the water based, we can start getting the wax on within like an hour or so. We can turn that around quite quick. Okay, another very popular product is the colour enhancer. Okay, this is like a go-to product for a lot of guys on darker materials, so maybe a brown or a black marble, a
slate.
Yeah, a Welsh slate. A lot of guys use it, and also quite a few guys like to use it on Victorian quarries to bring the colours out. Now, the misconception with colour enhancer is that it gives a shine, okay, which isn't correct. It's a stain protector. It's not like a shiny finish. So what sometimes happens is people will apply it maybe to slate. It will deepen all the colour. So on YouTube we've got a full step-by-step video, and then on slate, and you'll see at the end result, and it brings all the colour through, but it won't create a shine. So we sometimes get customers that call and say, I've used colour enhancer, but it's brought the colours out as we desire, but it's not actually, it's not given the shine that we want.
Sorry,
Oh,
I saw a comment come in.
feedback. So, so that's, colour enhancer is a great product, but the other thing as well, and this is where we'll come on to the waxes, is maybe on like a Victorian floor, if it's quite old and it's starting to go a little bit pinpricky, what happens is when you put the colour enhancer on, it will bring all the colours through, but it's not going to help with the pinpricks and that sort of changing the level of shine on the surface. So that's where actually we might be better going with the water-based sealer and like a satin wax. So that will still protect it, bring out some nice colours, but give a nice flat finish on the surface of the tile, and that will actually suit the customer's needs much better than just applying the colour enhancer.
It's where you get the problem with the aggregate coming through. But we're going to talk about quarries in a couple of weeks, which is like a topic in itself, really.
Yeah. CPL, so we covered that the other week, so there is sort of a full video on sealing ceramic and porcelain. But again, that's a specific molecule that's designed for ceramic and porcelain, because technically there's limited or no porosity to the face of a ceramic and porcelain tile. But what that product is designed is for the grout, and then we can work the excess into the tile. So where there is any voids or imperfections from the manufacturing process, it will fill them up and benefit the customer. But it's also for polished porcelain, which does need sealing. So that's where CPL is. But there's a full video from the other week on that material. And then, do you want to talk about waxes?
Yeah. Okay, so what we've got, we've put some on the surface here. We'll move the laptop in a second and just show you. And then we put some just on the floor, which I think should be coming through okay. Yeah, you can see a level of shine. So what we've tried to do is, we've got a different approach in regards to what a topical seal will offer. So we've got what's called an impregnating seal, as Martin's just been talking about, so that sits inside the stone. And then obviously, if we've got a client that has a sandstone, they have a travertine floor, and they just want an element of a shine to actually come through, and our diamond pad system won't actually create that shine because the stone isn't dense enough to do that, then that's where the waxes come in. What you find with sandstones, which we've got some down here, or York stone as it's commonly known, is it's quite rough. So as people walk over there, if you sometimes get shufflers, where they'll do this, it'll start to wear away at the soles of the shoes or anything like that, because it's that tough. Just by adding the seal underneath, so we get the stain repellency, which is what we want, that's the important stuff. And then on the surface, from an aesthetics point of view, we can create like a matte finish or a satin finish. We've chosen not to go any higher than that because it starts to look a little bit plasticky, and it's not really a perfect choice for a client. And if the stone is meant to be shiny, then we'll do that mechanically. So that's a different subject, which again we'll come on to in a couple of weeks. So the seal will sit here, and then the dressing will just sit slightly inside the stone and just on top of the stone, and it will create that nice consistent finish. So you should be able to see here. Let's get water. So what we got, water and seal. Let me just check to see if you can see shine. I might just lift that up ever so slightly, Martin, if you would. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what you can see is we've sealed the stone. This is marble, and then all we've done is create a nice consistent level of shine, and that's, like I say, that's the dressing that's just sat on the surface. Really easy to maintain. If we go back to the sandstone that we had here, when a mop and bucket is being used to maintain that floor, it's going to glide over a lot easier because it's going to go with the contours of the actual dressing rather than getting torn with the actual stone itself. So real good choice really on quarries that Martin was talking about, and also sandstones and rougher stones or more textured stones. You'll see it in quite a lot of the tile shops as well, where they'll sometimes put the dressings on the actual tile in the showroom. It just creates a much nicer effect. So that's the dressings. As I say, we do them in matte and satin. So depending on what your client actually wants, they're really easy to apply. Should we talk about the application of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the applicator kit. So when we're dealing with the impregnator, everything that Martin was talking about before, that sits inside the stone. So as he mentioned, a lot of people actually look and they'll put colour enhancer down and then they'll leave it. It'll kind of like give that wow factor. But you have to take off that excess. It's an impregnating seal, it's got to sit inside. So where anything sits on the surface, so when you follow the instructions, you're going to take off all of that excess that's on the surface. So the stone on the surface, there's nothing there. You know, the seal's sat inside. And once that's actually happened, the step 2,
And again, we've got the guides just on the wall here, and you can download them on the website. They actually, when we put the dressings on, we're going to use the same applicator kit, but we're going to leave it on the surface. We're not going to buff anything off. So it's something that's sat on the surface, and we're just going to create nice, even consistency with the product, not allowing it to pool in any areas. And once that goes over, it's going to take, that first coat's going to take around about 45 minutes to an hour, something like that really, to actually sit on the surface and then just completely dry. Once that's dry, if it needs a second coat, then we're going to go the opposite direction. So we're going to go north to south on that first pass, and then if it needs that second coat, we'll just go east to west on that second one. And again, it'll just create that nice consistency. But that second coat will just take a little bit longer to dry. If you're using the water-based, then you can apply it after about an hour. If you're not using the water-based and you're going to go down the honed route, then again, like Martin said, you need to be coming back the next day really and actually putting on the dressings. Really, really easy to apply. There's a full video on how we apply them. So again, it's on the YouTube channel, so you can click on that and go and see it, no problems. That's the dressings. Shall we touch a little bit on the Antico?
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I think it was?
Yeah.
When we last did the LVT side of things. So this is LVT, so we talked about LVT, and as we've said, LVT comes in loads of different formats, you know, and different designs and stuff like that. So what people like is they like to have a dressing that goes on the surface. You just add that little bit of protection, another extra barrier. Ours is called TM Shield. It's just a shield that goes over there. Again, you can find more information on the previous video we did on the LVT and everything else. But in essence, this is like the waxes. This is like the dressings. This sits on the surface. So once you've cleaned it and you've dried that surface down, then you just apply it the exact same way. North to south. If it needs that second coat, just go east to west. And it's really easy. So if you was to, I don't know, accidentally miss an area, then we're just going to use pad C, just key it ever so slightly, and then we can just apply that next coat and it'll just bond with itself, which is so it's great for maintenance as well. They're just nice, easy solutions. They just make it really simple. And what we find is the sealing part, you've done all the hard work in the job itself, in cleaning it, in polishing it, and doing whatever it is that you've done to the actual stone. This now for us is the business card. This is what we're leaving the client with. Again, whether it's commercial or domestic, this is what we want. That's the protection. That's what we're going to be known for how well that floor is going to be maintained until the next time we go in to actually do it. So, seals, impregnating, step one. If somebody wants a dressing, that's step two. So, this is that step two side of things in essence for LVT.
Yeah.
Easy enough?
Yeah. So the only thing we explain to a customer when we're applying a seal is obviously just the limitations to it. It's not some bomb-proof barrier that's going to stop everything. Okay. So we like to refer back to sort of cars with it. So the stain protectors, so the impregnators, when you put them on any acid sensitive surface, it's not going to protect it against acid. Okay? The easiest way to describe this is you spill anything, you know, you spray an acid based kitchen cleaner or red wine, vinegar onto your marble floor that's sealed. In essence, the acid will burn through the seal and then burn the stone and create an etch mark. Okay? Now, the misconception is that people think that's a stain. It's not a stain, it's damage. But we need to explain that the seal protects against oil and water based stain, but it won't protect against acid. Okay? And then even have, you know, a piece of polish that's sealed and just with a pipette put some number 4 on and just show the customer how acid etching actually works and what happens to the tile. The other one is people will think it will stop it scratching. Many years ago, me and Alex did a job and the customer said, "Oh, I'm so glad it's sealed now. because every time my grandson comes around, he's moving the furniture and it scratches. And I'm glad that won't happen now. And we were like, whoa, 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 it's still going to scratch, okay? You get a brand new car, it's got an 8-year guarantee on the paintwork. You drive down the country lane and hit some bushes and trees and stuff, it's going to scratch the paintwork, okay? So if you drag anything across it, it's still going to damage it and damage the sealer and the material. So with this kind of stuff, prevention is better than cure. So we need to be recommending like the little foam tabs under the table and chair legs, you know, good entrance matting, all these things, regular vacuuming. You know, they've got a gravel drive, they need to try and limit the amount of stones and stuff that are getting walked into the material. The seal isn't going to be a bomb-proof barrier that protects all this kind of stuff. So they're just little things. Always, when you're speaking to the customers, we're just trying to sell the product correctly to them. We're not sort of making out that once this seal goes on, the floor's just going to look after itself. The dirt will hover out the door and it will never scratch or get marked again. Yeah?
It would be nice though.
Would be nice.
It'd be very nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we've covered everything on seals. If there is anything else, ping it through. Always answering questions. Loads of people have been messaging us and stuff like that, so we're getting back to them. If there's anything you want us to cover, ping it over, no problems at all. I think next week we're probably going to cover a little bit of polishing and the different types of diamonds that are out there, and what we offer and what kind of finishes that they can do. Brilliant, thanks very much. Slightly longer than normal, but hope it was worthwhile. Steve Swinney said hello. Hi Steve, hope you're well. Not seen you for a bit, but I'm planning on coming up north in the next few weeks, so fingers crossed I'll catch up with you. Another little note, we've got a new training centre that's being built, so there's a whole host of courses we're going to be putting on, so just stay tuned for that kind of stuff. If there's anything that people want us to cover again, just let us know, we're more than happy to do that. Thanks very much, don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button, hit that bell, just to make sure that you're updated when we're going live. Cheers!
Thanks guys.